Coming in hot, it is the Week 10 fantasy football instant reactions and takeaways of the Audible, doing the early games. And oh my God, there was an early game so early. I'm so glad I woke up for it, though.
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor breaking out. Let's talk about all that after we play our intro.
You got a team, here's a word to the wise. You want to dominate your league? Go to Football Guys.
Football, I'm living in a fantasy. Football, got everybody mad at me. Football, cause every game I had to win. Football, I gotta be a champion. Football, I'm living in a fantasy.
All right, Week 10, marching on. We're doing the early games. Of course, no Broncos means early games only. Colts, Falcons, 31-25 in overtime. The fans in Berlin got a hell of a game. Thank you, Jonathan Taylor. And, hey, thank you, Falcons, for making this game, right? Michael Penix, 12 of 28, 177, one touchdown, no INT. If you were to guess, the touchdown, of course, is Drake London. Of course, 6 for 104 and a touch. Kyle Pitts, 2 for 38. 5 targets, though, for Pitts. 8 targets from Darnell Mooney, 1 catch, 17 yards. Bijan Robinson, 17 for 84 on the ground. Awesome. Couple catches, 4 yards. But it's Tyler Algier with 2 rushing touchdowns to help keep this thing close. And yeah, I mean, I thought Atlanta was going to pull it off. We'll talk about the Colts side and the unstoppable force that is Jonathan Taylor. But I thought they had a good plan against Daniel Jones defensively. And I thought Tyler Algier, Bijan Robinson, and Drake London were going to win them this game.
Yeah, if this game went in such a way that the Atlanta defense, spoiler alert, did enough that you would have expected them to lean on the run. But instead it was 50-50. Now, in today's NFL, 50-50 is still run heavy. But come on, you got Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier looked good in this game. Early, you saw Michael Penix, though, remember, just pass the ball to Drake London. And what's reassuring if you have Drake London is that connection is there, and we maybe not worried, but Sauce Gardner got traded to Indianapolis right before this game. How's that going to affect things? And Drake London making plays, getting a touchdown. But again, you saw at times this offense running through Penix more than Robinson, more than the running game. Now, there were some injuries on the offensive line, but you had in this game Darnell Mooney drops. And it's not all on Penix, right? Kyle Pitts had 1 drop, and then there's one that Penix missed him. So just it's a smaller margin of error. And in this game that was very competitive and back and forth, you wonder why Bijan Robinson isn't touching the ball 20 or 25 times, including in the passing game, because he's the best player. But this team was able to battle, and Penix was able to make throws when he needed to. They were able to send it to overtime. They weren't able to make the plays in overtime. But competing with a team like Indianapolis is not a bad yardstick. Michael Penix not developing in his second year the way they'd hope he's. And you see in this game, and again, cutting to the chase about the other side of the ball, the 704 rush combo, right? Jalen Walker and James Pierce. And like the pinchers, like the old Steelers defense, making things happen against Daniel Jones. And that's great, but they gave up a first-round pick to do that. And that first-round pick is going to be in the top 10 as of today. So Atlanta better do better against teams like Carolina, New Orleans, and the Jets coming up, because they still have Seattle, Tampa, Arizona, Rams after that. And the Rams, again, they're the team holding that pick right now, watching this morning and saying, yes, Daniel Jones, finish him.
Finish him. Fatality. It is Daniel Jones, 19 to 26, 255 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 INT, sacked 7 times. So with a win, you go, okay, Atlanta figured out the Colts, and well, it's Daniel Jones, and every quarterback under duress and under pressure is going to look mortal. And then I give you Tyler Warren. What was that, a 4th and 2? Like 4th and 2, Tyler Warren, just give him the ball and he makes plays. Tyler Warren, 8 for 99. Alec Pierce, 4 for 84 and a touchdown. Their special teams, whether it's Abdullah, Pierce, Doolin, they got big time returners back there. Jonathan Taylor, though, this is all about him. 3 touchdowns, 32 carries, 244 yards, and the longest carry of his career, 83 yards. Just a wonderful play, and a play where it's like, how do you stop this guy? You think you have him bottled up in the smallest of creases, And it's not smallest of crease, hey, 12-yard gain. Smallest of crease, 83-yard gain, touchdown. And just he keeps ripping you. Take the 83-yarder out. It's still 31 carries for $160. Math. Anyway, all hail Jonathan Taylor. He did a fantastic job.
Yeah, see, so again, let's look at this, and not just for let's start with fantasy, where again, if you have Bijan Robinson, you took him in the top 5, and maybe even running back 1, maybe even number 1 overall, and you're frustrated. Well, he touched the ball like 19 times in this game, in a close back and forth game. He's in a slump, for fantasy, and just after a roaring start, like you said, Jonathan Taylor, 32 carries and 3 receptions. And you know who is the player you want to live and die with in this offense. It's not Daniel Jones. It's Jonathan Taylor. And for fantasy, what's fun about this is he's having a monumental season right now. He's playing, this is that Hall of Fame level of play. I'm not saying he's a Hall of Famer. I'm saying this is what Hall of Famers look like. And for fantasy, it's a ride. And you just wonder, what a perfectly timed buy for him, because they've been doing a good job. He's been the elite fantasy running back, but oftentimes you see him getting 12, 14, 16 carries. So they can go with 32 carries going into the bye. And he really took over the game. And you saw early on Daniel Jones, a real well-timed blitz by Cam Bynum, that set up a Taylor touchdown. They got a turnover from Penix, but then you saw Daniel Jones with a fumble. You saw Daniel Jones with an interception, and a pretty bad interception to Jesse Bates. You're thinking, just like last week, is Daniel Jones starting to show some cracks? But you mentioned Tyler Warren. Early on, it was Alec Pierce making some plays. By the way, he continues to come on. Hasn't had, I think in 6 or 7 games, he had at least 67 receiving yards. No one's talking about him. Finally gets a touchdown. People are going to be talking about him. And then Tyler Warren. And of course, we have Michael Pittman, Josh Downs. But they only threw 25 times, and they gave the ball to Jonathan Taylor 32 times, which is smart, which is the right thing to do. They won because of it. And you might have won with Tyler Warren making a lot of big plays, a security blanket kind of player. And like you said, Cease, the returns also played a big role in this game. Special teams played a bit. When you have an overtime game and you look back and say, why did it turn out this way? The return game was a big part of this. So you've got the walk-off touchdown. Daniel Jones hanging tough. This team goes into their bye. This is the kind of game that gets you ready for January.
Ready for the next one. It's the Giants and the Bears here. And with the Giants, you can see what they could be with healthy players and more work and more around and maybe a different coaching staff. 24-20 the final score. Bears win. They're 6-3. Giants are 2-8. Jackson Dart, 242 yards. But he had 2 rushing touchdowns and 6 carries for 66 yards. Devil get out. But Jackson Dart having a nice fantasy day there. Tyrone Tracy with 14 for 71 in this one. Darius Slayton, 4 for 89. Theo Johnson, 7 for 75. Wan'Dale Robinson, 6 for 62. Devin Singletary with 8 carries, 20 yards on the ground, and then 3 for 53 as receiver. Not much else for anybody else here with the Giants, and they fall short.
Yeah, well, they had this game under control. This looked like a road win for Jackson Dart. The flurries. I always like it when you see snow. It's that time of year, snow games. This wasn't really a snow game, but just seeing some flurries and Jackson Dart, oldness, whatever. He's feeling good. You see him slinging it. Darius Slayton making a one-handed catch for 31 yards, looking like Odell Beckham out there. Slayton actually rang up 3 big catches before he had to leave with a hamstring, came back. They really didn't pass as much. Wan'Dale Robinson, like you said, had a decent game. Theo Johnson had a decent game. So Jackson's Dart throwing for 242 in windy conditions, and then just tough as a runner, getting the 2 touchdowns, racking up yards, some chunk gains. Really, there was one drive that he kind of just took it in from the 40, but then leaving with a concussion, and that's when the game changes. Russell Wilson comes in, and not much else happens for this offense. Devin Singletary breaks free on a short catch. You did also see Tyrone Tracy running better, by the way, in this one. They went more to Tracy, and he was the more effective, better runner. But at the same time, this is a committee that, with Jackson Dart getting a lot of the rushing touchdowns, I'm not sure if we're going to see him next week against Green Bay, but In some ways, this is almost ideal. See, like you said, a new coach for the next coach. You hope they're playing in Green Bay, and things are going in the right direction for this team, even though right now they're in position for a top 5 pick.
All right, let's talk the other side, and that is the Chicago Bears. Caleb Williams, 20 of 36, 220 yards, 1 touchdown, no INT. Also a rushing touchdown, 8 for 63 and a touch for Caleb on the ground. DeAndre Swift was back, calm on guy, but he got a rushing touchdown, 7 for 28 and a touchdown there for the talented rookie and Matt Waldman favorite. DeAndre Swift goes 13 for 80. Okay, and then 5 catches, 18 yards, but still 5 catches in PPR. You'll take that. Rome Odunze, 6 for 86 and a touchdown. They really like Colston Loveland, 4 for 55. Luther Burden, 3 for 51. DJ Moore, no catches, 4 targets. Oh, all right. So the Bears are kind of figuring stuff out.
Yeah, and we're figuring stuff out as far as projecting this offense, or at least in the short term. DeAndre Swift is back. Kyle Monangai gets the touchdown early, but Swift making more chunk plays in the running game, getting a lot more work in the passing game. So we're seeing this revert back to that split. They said hot hand coming into the game, which opened the door for Monangai, but seemed like that Swift closed it. And you also saw DJ Moore not catching the ball, 4 targets, shoulder injury. So Rome Odunze bounces back in this one, and you see that connection with Caleb Williams. But again, there were some 4th down stops. This was not a game that it looked like one that would be an affirmation game for Caleb Williams. It looked like an affirmation game for Jackson Dart. But as the game went on in the 4th quarter, you saw some of that escapability. You saw a touchdown scramble. You saw him getting that moment in Soldier Field where the crowd really was exhorting him, and he made the play. He crossed the goal line in a game that you hope gives him confidence, really. And I think, Cecil, as we've watched Caleb Williams, you can see there's more of like an emotional element to his game, even when we see him on the sidelines. And this game could be galvanizing for him in terms of confidence, even though they did lose DJ Moore. Like you said, Colston Loveland, Luther Burden making some plays. So you're seeing that passing game now with some of those pieces that have been brought in since Ben Johnson has become the head coach. And this was a really big win. And then on offense, you can see that they have balance. And Cease, I had to look it up. They're 6-3. I mean, this Bears team is 6-3. Hey, and they're playing Minnesota next week.
There you go. It's all working out as they work through the kinks. Okay, you may look at the box score, just the final score, and go, what the hell happened? And then you look at the box score and go, oh, Devon Achane. 30-13, the Miami Dolphins deal the Buffalo Bills a loss. Whew. All right, 30-13, the final score. The Bills are 6-3. Miami is 3-7. Josh Allen, 306 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT. You saw Khalil Shakir go 7 for 58. Keon Coleman, 3 for 46 and a touchdown down the sidelines. That's what you love to see. 3 tight ends of note: Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, Jackson Hawes. It's Hawes with the receiving touchdown, and nobody started him. Maybe you started Kincaid, 2 for 37. Maybe you started Knox, 3 for 37. James Cook, 13 for 53. Okay, 5 for 24. Okay, it's enough, but not what you needed, and not on this day where Miami took it to the Buffalo Bills, especially in the 4th quarter.
Yes, this was an interesting game coming in because we learned before this game that the Bills made a strong play for Jalen Waddle. I mean, it was thrown out there that they offered a 3rd next year and a 1st in 2027, 2027 draft class, a 1st in the 2027 draft class. And the Dolphins said, no, thanks. So the plot thickens. And remember, Buffalo had won 6 straight games. This is a Miami team that has been very unpredictable in terms of effort and intensity, but they brought it in this one. And you saw, early on a 4th down stop where we get a little cute. They call a downfield pass on 4th and short. Doesn't quite. I think it was to Hawes, actually. It doesn't work. Dalton Kincaid starts to make some plays. Dalton Kincaid leaves with a hamstring injury. James Cook, not exactly bottled up, but never really getting a chance to get going. And, we'll talk about how Miami's offense and Buffalo's defense plays into that. So, you saw Josh Allen put on the superhero cape, literally running around in a circle with the defense chasing him on 3rd and 16. And, we got to see Ray Davis try an onside kick. That's fun. It's the last time we saw a running back trying an onside kick. And Josh Allen was fine for fantasy because the Bills basically got blown out in this game. I mean, the Bills there was never a point that the Bills were truly competitive with the Dolphins in this game. So there was a lot of soft defense in that fourth quarter against Miami, but you also saw no real good fantasy plays on the other side of those Josh Allen passes. And even though James Cook caught 5 balls, it was just another day, Cease, where you look at this Buffalo offense, you're like, it's limited. It's a limited offense. How are you going to make it to the Super Bowl they tried to get Jalen Waddle, and the Dolphins said no. And then they played a game today, and the Dolphins said, it's our day.
Yeah, it's our day. And it's not necessarily innovation. It is somewhat innovative, Bloom. But as we see with the Bills, they're using a lot of 3 tight end looks. A lot. Why? Because they want to run the ball. They want to set up play action. But without a true number 1 wide receiver, this is what you get. And then you get the Dolphins taking their swing at it. Their Super Bowl, right? Tua going 173, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, though. Jalen Waddle getting 5 for 84 and a touch. Malik Washington, 2 for 9 and a touch. If you had him in as what the heck flex, awesome. Hey, Greg Dulcich made a catch. Devon Achane, 22 carries, 174 yards. My God. And 2 rushing touchdowns. It was an Achane day. 6 catches, 51 yards. Monster performance. So, hopefully he didn't go up against Jonathan Taylor or Devon Achane or both today.
Yeah, and this was a game where you saw the Dolphins had fight right from the beginning. You saw this is going to be now. Tua comes out and throws an interception right away, and it would have been really easy for them to say, another one of these kind of days. Maybe it's the day that Tua gets benched, right? We saw that floated coming into this game, but he finds himself with a lot of help from Devon Achane on that first touchdown drive. Malik Washington getting a touchdown, and then they make that 4th down stop. Jalen Waddle gets a touchdown with Jalen Waddle drive, and all of a sudden you start thinking, something we are expecting, some swamp magic in South Florida was happening in this one, and they never really let up. And it's Tua, Cease, it's Mike McDaniel. It's this team has been so unpredictable week to week in what you're going to get, but there's been one element that has not been unpredictable, that has been the same every week, and that is Devon Achane. And in the fourth quarter, when this easily could have turned into one of those, did you hear when Josh Allen did this comeback that had never been done before? Devon Achane just slammed the door shut with 2 long runs. And with that stamina in the fourth quarter and the speed, and maybe it's the team kind of responding to him and taking on his energy at this point. And hey, why not? I mean, just enjoy playing football. And this team plays Washington next week, so why not? Why not get a winning streak going for these Miami Dolphins?
Nah, just craziness, absolute insanity, and well, that's what you get in the National Football League. We got 3 games down. We got 5 games to go. Recapping the early games. We'll give you some late game thoughts at the end of the show. But when the Broncos don't play, we take the opportunity to go, hey, let's get the early games done and go enjoy some Sunday Night Football. And oh yeah, personal time. So as we talk about this game, we appreciate everyone that watches. 20 years of the Audible. So make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. We appreciate you. I certainly appreciate the Baltimore Ravens. They're arguably the most dangerous team you're not thinking about in the AFC. That's not a hot take. That's just if this team gets hot, you don't want to play them in the postseason. Now they're 4-5 and they win today over the Minnesota Vikings. 27-19 the final score. Both teams are 4-5, but one team's going one way, one team's going the other. And if you look at the Ravens schedule, Bloom, they might be there at the end. And if you enter the postseason, Bills, Ravens, wild card matchup. Who wins? I'm
right.
taking Baltimore. Like, Baltimore doesn't have the record because they dug themselves a hole, and Cooper Rush, everybody. But if that team gets it, look out, AFC bracket. Look out, Minnesota today. Lamar going 176, 1 touchdown, no INTs. The 1 touchdown to Mandrews, 3 for 14 and a touch there. Zay Flowers, 4 for 75. Charlie Kolar, 1 for 23. Isaiah Likely, 2 for 17. DeAndre Hopkins, 2 for 16. This is what you get. But you also get a Justice Hill touchdown.
Yeah.
You get Derrick Henry, 20 for 75. Oh, and then Lamar Jackson, 9 for 36 as a runner there as well. Derrick had 3 catches, 9 yards, and that definitely helps in PPR leagues. But 27-19 at times seemed like they were playing with their food.
Yeah, I think that this, and we can talk about what that has to do with JJ McCarthy, but Cecil, I still think this is the kind of win. This is the trial. You can look back on a season, and NFL Films used to do a fantastic job. Every time I say this, I want to say Ed and Steve Sable like changed our lives, right?
Yes.
I mean, they changed our lives. In a lot of ways, the romantic way that we think about professional football was created by NFL Films.
Yes.
And they would have these retrospectives on a season, right? The Super Bowl winning season. And of course, like Kierkegaard, like we know when we're making this film that they win the Super Bowl, so that the story is easier to tell as like this was all culminating and then winning the Super Bowl. But the Ravens, I'm not going to say they're going to win the Super Bowl, but they're having one of those seasons where they're going through trials and they're learning about themselves. They were really humiliated by the Lions, another team that considers themselves a team that has designs on winning the Super Bowl, and their team. And then Lamar Jackson got hurt against the Chiefs. These are the yardstick games, and it seemed like they were in a tailspin. And like you said, this Vikings team wasn't an easy out, but Baltimore goes on the road and settling for a lot of field goals. And let's give the Minnesota defense some credit. So there weren't any good fantasy plays. Andrew Van Ginkel being back makes this Vikings defense pretty good, by the way. So for a while, the Vikings, they showed some softness against like the Chargers. I don't think that we're going to see that. And Derrick Henry, again, Justice Hill gets the touchdown, but still, Ravens have things on track. It's going to come for Derrick Henry. It's going to come for Lamar Jackson. It's going to come for Zay Flowers, who's getting some plays downfield. I don't know if it's going to come for Mark Andrews. He did get a touchdown, but Isaiah Likely's involved. Even Charlie Kolar is involved. And this was a game where they just, like you said, Cease, they didn't let up on offense. Often settling for field goals, 1 miss for Tyler Loop, but a good defense. They were pushing them around, using the elements they have, and that's good practice for the game they have next week at Cleveland. Not a lot of margin of error, but I think they're ready for it.
What's the margin of error with JJ McCarthy? And we'll talk about his game. 20 of 42, 248 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 INTs. Jalen Naylor getting 5 for 124 and a touch. Justin Jefferson, 4 for 37, 12 targets. 11 targets for Jordan Addison, 3 for 35. So you have 23 targets between your 2 top receivers with 7 catches for 72 yards. All right. You're expecting a little more on 23 targets. TJ Hawkinson didn't do much. Nobody really did much. Aaron Jones gets a rushing touchdown, but only 9 for 47 on the ground. McCarthy leads the team in rushing with 48 rushing yards. So it's like, okay, they're going to give him time, certainly. And somewhere our buddy Thor Nystrom is tweeting about how great JJ McCarthy is. Maybe one day he'll actually get there.
Yeah. Well, this is, let's talk about the story arc for someone like JJ McCarthy, because the first 2 games, with the exception of that 1 quarter against the Bears, he looked kind of overwhelmed. And against the Detroit defense that really put a lot of pressure on him last week, he made the plays he needed to make to win a really tough divisional game on the road. He comes home for a tough game against a hungry Ravens team, a team that's kind of like, don't mess with a cornered animal. They're like a cornered animal right now with the way their season has gone. And you did see JJ McCarthy. He's kind of frenetic, but it's not because he's anxious, because he's very willing. But you can tell that there's a way that he's processing things, that it's not fluid, it's not smooth, it's kind of herky jerky. And it's like the way he's throwing the ball. Like, he doesn't have a lot of touch, a lot of variance on the way he's delivering his passes, but the physical tools are there, the willingness is there, and you do see him in key plus EV moments make plays, mostly to Jalen Naylor. And
Yeah.
that's the weird thing. I mean, Jalen Naylor, we'll talk about him on the waiver wire show, because how can you ignore a game like this? But there were throws downfield to Justin Jefferson that turned into like an interception. Both of them. I mean, like there's one that he fell down. Justin Jefferson fell down. And there was another one that McCarthy put it on him as he was crossing the goal line in the middle of the field. And it wasn't necessarily, it was a tough play, and he got his hands on it, and it was kind of broken up, but it's not the kind of play that it's the play that you just like, when you see the ball arriving, you expect Justin Jefferson to make that play because he's Justin Jefferson. All right.
Yeah.
So, there's some chemistry to work out there, I guess. The chemistry's obviously there. And again, there's so many targets to Jordan Addison. Chemistry's not there yet. I think there's room for this to come online for fantasy. I'm much more optimistic after these two games than I was just with the unknown of 7 out of 8 quarters where McCarthy looked a little overwhelmed. And you saw Aaron Jones get a touchdown early on in this one. And it is Aaron Jones ahead of Jordan Addison. Don't look at the number of carries, especially in terms of fantasy value. And it was a deep ball to Jalen Naylor that set that up early on. So, it's a long-term plan with JJ McCarthy, and now we're in that phase where he's going to learn and hopefully develop and get refined. At least that's what you hope. And he gets to face Chicago again. So we'll be able to compare this 1-to-1 and see where he's at in his first season as a starter.
Yeah, see where he's at, and then see where this team goes. Up next, it's the New York Jets 27, the Cleveland Browns 20. Browns are 2-7. Well, Jets are 2-7. And Dylan Gabriel is out there trying to do his best. 17 of 32, 167 yards, 2 touchdowns, no INT, sacked 6 times. But he got Jerry Jeudy going, finally. 6 for 78 and a touchdown for Jerry Jeudy. Cedric Tillman's returned, but 2 for 11. And we remember when Tillman was out there, it certainly wasn't Dylan Gabriel tossing him passes when he was their leading receiver, like 3 out of the 4 games he played earlier. Top of my head, Bloom. Harold Fannin, 4 for 44. David Njoku, a touchdown, 2 for 21. Man, they should have traded him. Quinshon Judkins, 22 carries, 75 yards. So there's that intent of hey, it's a young quarterback, going to run the hell out of the ball. Perfect balance, 32 rushing attempts as a team, including Dylan Simpson, and then 32 passing attempts for Gabriel with those 6 sacks, falling short to the Jets with a fourth quarter surge. But hey, at least Jerry Jeudy got going this week.
Yeah, this game, Cease, this is one of those no one cares about your fantasy team. But I was in the contest. I think it's what's it called? Pool Genius. They put it on. There were only 26 entries left out of 350 for $10,000, $5,000 for charity. I probably would have given the whole $15,000 for charity. At 2 entries, I wanted to get some variance. There's one of my picks today was the Browns. Yeah, they're on the road. But the Jets just traded away their 2 best offensive players. Aaron Glenn doesn't even want to say who the quarterback is. Browns defense.
Right.
We saw the Browns do this to New Orleans early this year, right? You come in with some inferior offense. They're going to dominate field position. And the offense with Quinshon Judkins is functional enough. And then you add in that the Jets traded away their 2 best defensive players. Oh, Dylan Gabriel is actually going to get kind of comfortable. And he did at times.
Kind of.
Yeah. I mean, there was a field goal drive. Like you said, he finally got Jerry Jeudy involved early. David Njoku catches a touchdown. Bannon, you don't worry about the hamstring. He takes a couple of and by the way, the field goal was great. Like Gabriel took a sack with 11 seconds left. They didn't have any timeouts. Field goal team. This is what winning teams do. Get the field goal team out there, kick the field goal, tie it up going into halftime. But how was it tied up, even though they scored 2 touchdowns? It was because they gave up 2 return touchdowns on special teams. Come on, Browns. But the Jets defense was bad, at least in the first half, or was vulnerable to someone like Dylan Gabriel. And then in the second half, Jets defense wasn't so bad. So, Quinshon Judkins didn't do, you would think this would be a smash spot for him. Kind of disappointing for fantasy. And otherwise, I think the Jets are going to be kind of a high watermark for opposing offenses. So, it wasn't like a great Browns. And I got Jared. We love Jared. I mean, of all the people that have ever been part of our community, Jared's like,
oh, gee.
I mean, he was here. I mean, he was actually here in New Orleans 6 years ago. He and his lovely wife for our streetcar wedding. And he just texted me about new ways. He loves seeing new ways for the Browns to lose. But hey, they're in position for a top 5 pick now. and they play Baltimore, the team that stole their soul, next week.
Yeah, let's talk about those Jets and who's the quarterback. Oh, it's so clandestine. Yeah, it was Justin Fields going 6 of 11 for 54 yards. Now they won. 1 touchdown, 1 INT. Brees Hall getting the touchdown, 1 for 42 and a touch. Is it even worth mentioning when Mason Taylor has a catch for 4 yards? Literally everyone had a catch. Anyone who caught a ball, and Garrett Wilson caught none, but anyone who caught a pass. 1 for Brees Hall, 1 for Isaiah Williams. This is just funny. 1 for Mason Taylor, 1 for John Mechie, 1 for Isaiah Davis. Nothing for Tyler Johnson off of 1 target. Nothing for Jeremy Rucker. Rucker got 1 catch, 0 yards. And then 3 targets for Garrett Wilson, no catches. Brees Hall, 21 carries, 83 yards. And Justin Fields, 7 carries, 28 yards. Okay. You win. Is that good?
Yeah, right. I mean, this could be one of those games we look back and say the top 5 of the draft worked out this way because of this game. Now, to be fair, Cease, the Raiders-Broncos game kind of looked like one of those games, even though the Broncos aren't going to be in the top 5 of the draft. Raiders might be. But in this game, we had points, unlike the game on Thursday night. In this game, we had points because the Jets defense, again, they traded away their 2 best defensive players. And you got the Jets special teams and Brees Hall, not Justin Fields, and not the passing game. And, I mean, we've seen Justin Fields come back to life against the Bengals, against the Steelers on a very bad afternoon, but otherwise, he's just not an NFL passer. And if you were thinking about starting Garrett Wilson again this year, at least while Fields is the quarterback, he left with a knee injury after not catching a pass, and then came back in and then left again. I don't know if it's a different knee injury, same injury. Well, So for those of you that said gloom and doom disaster for Garrett Wilson this year, you were right. You're right. So this wasn't a great game for him, but it was Brees Hall. And I was wondering, after Brees Hall got out there that he wanted to be traded, and this says a lot about Brees Hall. Didn't get traded. What's that going to look like? We're going to see some Le'Veon Bell kind of stuff. Or we're going to see, a hamstring. I mean, in some ways, if you're acting in true self-preservation, it might be smart. If the organization is saying, we're not going to honor your viewpoint. But Eric Glenn said he's a good player, and he's right. And they won the game because of him in this one. Justin Fields just threw a little flare swing out to the flat to Brees Hall. He took it to the house. And when they could move the ball, it was Brees Hall running the ball, and he's still balling out. And they get a win. Again, it affects their draft position potentially, but that's it. And then they get to go to New England on Thursday night and play spoiler. But again, I think we may look back at this game and say the Jets aren't picking number 1 because they won this game.
Yeah, it's odd. Definitely odd times. That's for sure. I blame the Thursday night game. Patriots and Buccaneers up next here, and what a wild one. It's Patriots getting the win 28-23, the final score. Bucks are 6-3. Pats are 8-2. Drake May, 270 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT, only sacked 1 time. Mac Hollins, 6 for 106 in this one. Kyle Williams, 1 for 72 and a touchdown. I just wrote about him yesterday on the Footballguys Newswire of hey, there might be some more opportunities. And I wrote about how he's a big play specialist. I wasn't thinking 72 yards and a touchdown, but it was nice to see some of that college skill set come through. Cougs help Cougs. Stephon Diggs helping himself to the end zone again. What, Bloom, is that 3 in a row now for Diggs? Went for weeks without scoring, and then I believe it's 3 weeks in a row with a touchdown. Correct me if I'm wrong. Stephon Diggs, 5 for 46 and a touch there as well. Nobody else did much as receivers, but Travion Henderson. Listen, Ramondre Stevenson is fantastic, but the fact that there was a time when we're are they just going to go with Terrell Jennings? Do they not trust Travion Henderson? Travion Henderson is damn good. Damn good. 14, 147, 2 touchdowns. Long of 69. That is so nice from the rookie runner. Also a catch for 3 yards. So, yeah, lots of Henderson today. And, Henderson truthers, such as myself, Bloom, love to see it.
Yeah, that Henderson headline, he looked like Devin Achane did, running away from the defense late to really ice the game. And this game was outstanding. This was that playoff intensity. I said earlier in the chat room, Cease, you could feel in this game, you could feel what happens in the NFL every midseason when something clicks into gear and we have playoff intensity. And we have it occasionally just because of the nature of certain matchups in the first half of the year. But as it gets dark earlier, when there's other daylight savings time, you just feel like you've watched a lot of really intense games. And this was a great game as far as the back and forth of the coaches. And we knew it was going to be a quarterback game, Drake May and Baker Mayfield, which in and of itself is like must-see TV.
Yes.
But early on, it was a defense game. And it was really Travion Henderson, he was bottled up. The offense wasn't doing a lot. And then Drake May throws an absolute dime, one of those balls that could not be more perfectly thrown to lead. I mean, the great quarterbacks, Cecil, they make suggestions to receivers with how they throw the ball. They're just like, hey, run this way,
Right.
And Drake May did that, and Kyle Williams did the rest and just took off. And, for dynasty leagues, and maybe even, we'll talk about them in the waiver wire shows. I mean, you can't ignore that. You can't ignore that when you add that element. And, what did we bemoan about this offense last year? Like, no explosiveness. And that was so exciting to see. And then you see with Kayshon Boutte out, Mac Hollins, and not just, by the way, going over 100 yards on the 54-yard touchdown run. So they score going into the first half. Let me back up. They score going into the first half. And let me tell you what Mike Vrabel did. And see, this was a true first. On 1st and goal with about 1:40 left, and knowing that Tampa did not have any timeouts, they basically conceded a play. Didn't take a knee like victory formation. It was kind of like run up to the line and then just stop at the 1, I mean, that's respect for Baker Mayfield. And that's Mike Vrabel. That's what you do when you believe in your players. But guess what? They got stopped on 2nd and 3rd and goal. Uh-oh. Now it's like 10 seconds left. 4th goal, you're just going to kick the field goal. You're going to concede the 4 points that you might have given up because no, they're going to go for it on 4th and goal. That's when you get that Stephon Diggs toe tap touchdown, a true professional touchdown, and Drake May with a true professional throw. And they drain the clock. Then they get the ball coming out of the break, and you get a Henderson 54-yard run. And who's throwing the block to spring at Cecil? It's Mac Hollins.
Mm-hmm.
And you see with Boutte out, Mac Hollins, we'll talk about it on the waiver wire show, but let's take a moment out because we like to get woo on this show, right? Mac Hollins is the dude that likes to be barefoot. I mean, that's his thing, man. Second, there was Australian trainer.
Dressed up like a revolutionary soldier.
Right.
Halloween, remember? Complete with a musket.
Right. And he should be like a hobbit showing up at the stadium most weeks without shoes. And he's great. He says it's good for his ankle strength, his foot strength. It keeps him grounded. It was Australian trainers. It's like natural movement.
It definitely helps with your grounding and all of everything that you're saying, about your balance and just take care of your feet, man. Why do you think soldiers? That's one of the first things they learn is like take care of your feet.
Yeah. It's really a cool thing that he's so intentional about it. And I think that seeing him play this way in this game, and this is what Drake May's been doing every week. It's someone different, and this week it was Hollins, and then again it was a 56-yarder that set up. They were expanding the lead, and then one of those Drake May trying to do too much, or this could have been a more comfortable win, even more comfortable, because really it was just a garbage time touchdown that tightened it up at the end. We need to take this team seriously. I mean, we really need to take this team seriously, what Mike Vrabel is doing right now. And it's on both sides of the ball. This is a good Tampa Bay team. They're battle tested. They've beaten some good teams this year. And New England went down there and they took, it was a back and forth fight. And with the coaching and the execution, and now the addition of Travion Henderson. So you see the explosiveness. Couldn't be a better motif that they had 3 touchdowns scored by these rookies, which was what we said they needed to do in the draft. So it's a whole organization thing coming together right now, and it's beautiful to see, even though it is the Patriots.
And we did have questions before this game of like, okay, are they going to beat anybody? Beating Tampa Bay is something of note. You do that on the road. Christopher asks, what do you guys think about May? Now, our pre-draft stuff is still available on YouTube, but I'll just give my quick recap. He's my number 3 quarterback that year when he came out.
I might have lost Cecil, and we're
Are
live,
you
and you're back.
Are you live? No, I'm back. I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here. I didn't lose you. I hope you didn't lose me. I hope the listeners didn't lose me either. Thoughts on May? He was my number 3 quarterback last year. He plays hero ball all the time. He's got a huge arm. Huge arm, and he's athletic. And it's not just the North Carolina thing, but if Sam Howell could play, he'd be Drake May. And Drake May has rushing ability, a live arm. He can throw it across the field. He can roll to his right, throw 70 yards to his left. Very few quarterbacks can do that. So he's got all the tools. The biggest problem with Drake May is he tries to throw a touchdown every time he throws the ball when he gets in that hero ball mode. So if you can run the ball, whether it's Stevenson or Henderson, you can get excellent football from Drake May because he doesn't feel like he has to do everything like he did at North Carolina, where Bloom, he had to do everything.
It's basically Josh Allen. I mean, it's when the game or the nature of his surroundings makes him feel like he has to do something all on his own. He will try, even if he's not going to succeed.
Right.
We saw Andrew Luck play this way, and it's part of why he ended up not in the league for so long. But what you're seeing now, like you said, Cease, is he has players that are making plays for him. And it's not just the rookies and the speed today. I mean, Pop Douglas has made plays. Keishon Boutte has made plays. Hunter Henry has made plays. And it makes it hard to project for fantasy week to week. But the excellence and the line you can draw all the way through is Drake May's play, because to get there in the first place, you have to be willing to do what I just mentioned, like go to the edge of your abilities. Now, when you go past the edge of your abilities, that's when disaster happens. But see, we saw that every great quarterback we've ever seen, you could queue up a 10-minute long reel of mistakes they made. Peyton Manning his first year, mistakes they made finding out, or trying to go to that very peak of their abilities. And the other thing you have to just solve for X, that his mindset. And maybe some of it's Mike Vrabel, but he had it before Vrabel was there. But he and Vrabel amplify it, where there's just a sense of calm about this team, about him, the way he's playing, a confidence. And it's a lot of the same transformation we saw Baker Mayfield what happened to him with this Tampa team.
Well, let's talk about Baker, the baby maker. 3 touchdowns, 273 yards. 2 of those things to Tez Johnson, 4 for 42 on a touch, and backflips abound. Emeka Egbuka, 6 for 115 and a touch because he's amazing. K-Dot, 9 for 82. Rachaad White had 5 catches, 16 yards. White also had 10 carries, 38 yards, but not the leading rusher. That was Sean Tucker, 9 for 53 on the day. So fighting hard at home, putting up points, falling short.
Yeah, and this team, they're missing Mike Evans, missing Chris Godwin. However, Emeka Egbuka is going to do his thing. And for fantasy, he has arrived, and you saw Tez Johnson hit. Certainly, this was a matchup you knew that both of these teams have really good run defenses. So you knew that it was going to fall on the quarterbacks to move the ball. But when Tez Johnson, one of the Tez Johnson touchdowns got them to 21-16 before the Henderson run. And the second one was more of a garbage time touchdown. And you saw because Baker Mayfield's very good. K. Dotton also had a good game. When the wide receivers the group is thin, because Sterling Shepard, for all the injuries he's come back from, he just doesn't quite have it at this point. So that third option, not so much Rachaad White, who, again, Sean Tucker ran better than him in this one, but the running game just isn't going to be going. Actually, Tucker was the first running back to go over 50 yards against New England. But not until Bucky Irving is back are we going to see this running game. So that's the thing. Now, they're not going to get Evans back. They might get an impactful Chris Godwin back. I'm pretty sure they're going to get an impactful Bucky Irving back. They're going to get back their right tackle, Luke Goedeke. You saw them make some plays against Drake May. The defense didn't roll over, but they weren't up to this one. That's being said, again, it's about the journey. It's about learning about your weaknesses, learning from them so that the next time it might be different. And again, they're facing a team next week, Buffalo, Tampa Bay. That's going to be a really fascinating game after both these teams are looking at New England and looking up at New England, which is not what any of us thought was going to happen.
No, and that's the great thing about the National Football League, and we appreciate you. We got 6 games down, 2 games to go as we recap the early games. It's 20 years of the Audible, so we thank you very much for watching, for listening, subscribing, however you enjoy your podcast. We're glad that you enjoy us because we appreciate you. All right, Sigmund, let's get to these final couple of games, including one that I'm going to toss both of them to you because it's the Saints in Carolina. And, well, Mark Schlereth on the game. That's the most exciting thing. 17-7, the final score. Panthers are 5-5, and Jekyll and Hyde doesn't even begin to describe the Carolina Panthers. The Saints are 2-8 and just mostly pathetic, but hey, nice helmets. I'm going to give you both teams because this was a boring game.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things. Well, first of all, again, let's talk about me for a second. That was the other team I picked. The other team was the Panthers. I said, I mean, here, if I learn anything about survivor pools from this, because I don't usually do survivor pools, I thought use up the good teams early because the point is just to stay alive. And I was down to, fewer than 10% were left. But then you have to pick teams like Cleveland and Carolina. And this is what happens. You can't count on these teams any given week, partially because here's the headline, Cecil. Tyler Shuck looks like a quarterback.
Whoa.
I think we got a quarterback here.
Why in the hell did they start Spencer Rattler then? They
right.
should have
Well,
Shuck from day one.
Right. Because what you saw was him moving and outside of structure, negotiating space, keeping his eyes downfield, and just throwing beautiful passes downfield to Chris Olave and Juwan Johnson for big plays. And then you had Olave one where Horn falls down. JC Horn, got to keep your feet. And that's a long touchdown. But the point is, Shuck put the ball in that cylinder and put it on Chris Olave so that you have a heightened sense with Olave being the outstanding receiver that he is. Now, some of the reason that Olave was a first-round pick can come into play. You're not just throwing him the ball 5 yards, 10 yards from the line of scrimmage. You're seeing all those skills. And Alvin Kamara, hey, it was at least, a reasonable fantasy day from him. Devin Neal's doing a little bit more. Olave also had a tremendous one-handed catch. Taysom Hill even ran the ball 7 times. Taysom Hill's touching the ball. It's probably going to be a good game for the Saints. Now, again, we're thinking about draft status now. So is this the kind of win that's going to cost him? Maybe, but Tyler Shuck is in the enviable position of the more he wins, the less likely it's going to be they're going to be in position to draft a guy that would take his job next year. So that's motivation. And, I think that this team is they were competitive with Spencer Rattler. And on the Panther side, Bryce Young just looks feeble. Tedrow McMillan is making rookie mistakes, or there's lapses. He's outstanding player, but he and Rico Dowdle are basically what this offense has. And the only touchdown drive they had, it was an interception that was overturned by a roughing the passer call. And there's even a play where the Saints blocked a field goal and then messed up the touching rule and gave the ball back to the Panthers. So there just wasn't much of a dropped handoff with Jimmy Horn Jr. Dowdle couldn't get going the way that he has in games previously. And you saw this team just doesn't have any kind of counterpunch after that. So they're 5-5 and they're going to face Atlanta. It's really hard to get a fix on this team. But again, New Orleans, I think maybe at least for the time being, you can think about having a quarterback.
Yeah, they got a quarterback. And what do they have in Jacksonville? Hey, final game we're going to talk about, and we'll give some brief thoughts on the afternoon games. It's Jacksonville, and it's the Texans, and Texans get the win, 36-29, the final score. Texans are 4-5, Jaguars are 5-4. Trevor Lawrence, 1 touchdown, 1 INT, 158 yards. Not great, Bob. It's Parker Washington with the touchdown, 3 for 33. Jacoby Myers, 3 for 41. Austin Trammell, 2 for 33. Travis Etienne, 16 carries, 58 yards, 1 rushing touchdown, also a couple of catches there as well. But, man, without Brian Thomas, without Travis Hunter, you really don't have a lot on offense. And it doesn't help that Trevor Lawrence often is either sacked, throwing a pick, or just looks off.
Yeah, that's the thing about this team, right? Is that they're not winning because Liam Cohen's offense is barnstorming with, look at what Trevor Lawrence can do with just like Baker Mayfield, show why he was the number 1 overall pick. No, but this team has still been winning. right? No problem. This team was 5-3 coming into this game. So when you're winning, even though things aren't firing, you're overcoming some setbacks, difficulties on offense, and you're facing Davis Mills, right? Going into this game, I think it's the game you expect the Jags to continue to get a step closer to a playoff berth, at least being in the playoff picture down the stretch in Liam Cohen's first year. They get a field goal off an interception. Then the Texans fumble the kickoff. They get a touchdown. Parker Washington with a sweet toe tap touchdown. Then Parker Washington returns a punt for a touchdown. And, it's Davis Mills. It's Davis Mills. I mean, this Texans offense, even with C.J. Stroud, has some rough afternoons. And, maybe we have to start asking some questions because you would think, again, Travis Etienne gets a touchdown. This game was sewn up from a fantasy point of view. Like we said, passing game. I mean, hopefully you get credit for the Parker Washington punt return touchdown. Maybe Jacoby Myers can do a little bit more. However, this is a game that shows how limited their offense is, including, we've had a few flashes from this running game, but that's it. Let's give some credit to the Houston Texans defense, of course, one of the best defenses. But they were playing this game downhill. It was 29-10 going into the fourth quarter. And then they just gave up. Now we've seen this, and I don't want to read too much into the Jags. I mean, they just thought they already had the win sewn up. So they're still 5-4. They're facing the Chargers, sorting out that playoff picture. But I think you're right, Cease, that this is a game that if they had just held serve in the fourth quarter, Davis Mills hadn't done what he had done, and they had won, we'd say, like, well, it's going to be okay. But now the questions get a little more sharp and pointed about Trevor Lawrence, because when you lose a game like this, it makes everybody want to point fingers. But hey, at least we can say Davis Mills had his day.
Yeah, had his day, and the Texans had their W. Davis Mills, 27-45, 292, 2 touchdowns, 1 INTs. Nico Collins, 7 for 136. Dalton Schultz, 7 for 53 and a touchdown. Jaden Higgins, 5 for 42 and a touchdown. 4 for 35 for Jalen Knoll. Christian Kirk a catch for 3 yards. Woody Marks, 14 for 63 and a rushing touchdown. Mills also had a rushing touchdown as well. Nick Chubb, 5 for 47 on the ground, a catch for 5 yards. Marks also had a couple of catches for 18 yards, benefiting his day in PPR leagues.
Yeah, and by the way, it's 36-29 because Houston closed it out with a defensive touchdown. So you play that Houston defense, and they were making some plays, even though, again, it wasn't the defense necessarily letting them down. But you saw this game. Woody Marks scored a touchdown. He was running ahead, got a little banged up, was running ahead of Nick Chubb. And maybe this offense coming to life, roaring to life in the fourth quarter can help. We haven't seen that get really jump started for the Broncos yet, Cease, but you can maybe carry some confidence going forward. But it seemed like the storyline for this game going into the fourth quarter was going to be, you fall behind, you make lapses on special teams. You can't do that when Davis Mills is your quarterback. And because of that, everybody suffers for fantasy. We have an entirely different story. If you were forced to play Davis Mills in your 2-quarterback Superflex league, you're smiling, as the late Mike Lang would say, smiling like a butcher's dog. And Nico Collins came through. Dalton Schultz came through. Even Jaden Higgins came through. And then it was Davis Mills running in the game-winning touchdown in this moment that, whatever happens and for the rest of his career, he was the hero. And, this team is now 4-5. I don't think they're going to catch the Colts, but they're not out of it. And this is a playoff tested team. This is a team that does have balance and is getting more accustomed to a new offense, trying to get the offensive line gelled. This kind of win can change a season, just like Tyler Huntley's win against Chicago did so much for the Ravens. So backup quarterback matters. And I would not have said that going into this day that Davis Mills would be one of those quarterbacks that could author a day like this. And, it changed the outcome of a few fantasy matchups, I'm sure.
Yes, it did. Always in motion is the future. Always in motion are the afternoon games going on right now. So if you're listening afterwards, we don't know what's going to happen or how these things are going to finish. But if I were to guess, Seattle's going to win big. Detroit's going to win big. And the Rams are going to win big just based on where our scores are at right now. 38 points by Seattle. Detroit's up 22-10 as of this recording. And the Rams seem to be handling their business 21-7. Bloom, any sort of afternoon thoughts before we wrap it up?
I just, we have to start looking at Seattle as a potential Super Bowl team with Sam Darnold. Let's see if that can happen because of just how their defense and offense are meshing.
The Rams in Seattle are the real contenders in the NFC.
Yeah, right.
And the real pretenders in the AFC. Seems like outside of the Ravens, who aren't even in the playoff picture, like every single AFC team has major question marks. Yes, even the Patriots.
Yeah, flaws, and yeah, and the Rams, we saw this. Mac Jones gave us a surprise, very competitive game, win, upset against Matthew Stafford, and the Rams are definitely saying that straight. And Detroit just taking care of business against Marcus Mariota. I'm sure that Dan Campbell would have preferred if it was against Jaden Daniels, just to really exercise the demons. But speaking of that, he took over play calling in this one, and maybe not all is okay in the happy, loving family of the Lions, but winning is that deodorant. And, I think that for strong personalities often happens behind the scenes. It's not so behind the scenes right now. But again, a lot of people have said, hey, we give all this credit to Ben Johnson, but Dan Campbell is very much a chef in that kitchen offensively. And now he's showing it. So maybe that's going to be a good thing for the Lions in the second half of the season.
We shall see, and we'll be here to record all of it with you. It is the Audible, celebrating 20 years of podcasting, or whatever the hell we called it when the first episode of this show was recorded on a cassette. That is not hyperbole. We've been doing it for a long time, and a lot of you out there have been listening for a long time. If you're new, hi, how's it going? I'm Cecil, he's Sig. I've got the big mouth, he's got the brain in the mouth, right? Is that what we call us? We can call us that. We can call us whatever you want.
Bobby the Brain and Jimmy Hart.
As long as you hit like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you never miss a vid. I love going into radio mode. That's cracking ball sack. It's mayhem in the AM. Sorry, Joe. Anyway, he's Sig. I'm Cease. There it is. You got your Sorry Joe t-shirt. I need one of those things. Mm-hmm. There we go. That's a wrap. Today's program. Appreciate you all. Thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned. And would you please, as always, stay frosty.